A conscious belief is a centering belief because it allows a person to center themselves around certain thoughts. The centering belief is different from a core belief because a core belief is not conscious mostly. A conscious belief allows a person to sympathize with people in groups and individuals. People group themselves on the basis of physical characteristics. They might be blonde, they might be female, they might be black, they might be white, they might be down here. When you group yourself, you can isolate yourself away from those people not in your group. It's who you as the person groups with which allows you as the person to isolate, to distance yourself away from those people not in your group. But it also allows other people in the group to foster relations with you and to have a certain influence over you according to that group. Say if you decide to align yourselves with the grouping of women or with the grouping of men, means also that you are creating the divide between women and men, or women and whatever. The acceptable grouping, mostly it is men. If you decide to group yourselves with the grouping of black against white or coloured against non-coloured, then you are creating the divide between these two groups. And it's difficult to get out of a situation when other people are creating this divide. So it's not just you as the person, it's also the other people around you who have an influence, who are in your group or outside your group. The way a person goes into a situation and how they use positioning, this allows them an angle for their attitude. Using Bronfenbrenner's rings of influence, it is possible to show up this logic of others, to make it useful, putting it in a context and grounding it, as opposed to showing people ways to think or handing them out variables which they might not agree with or understand. Using Bronfenbrenner's rings is an open way of thinking, is an open way of seeing things instead of a closed way. You know the closed way? People hands on hips, crossed arms, crossed legs, crossed eyes. No, that's a joke. Of course not crossed eyes. But when people are angry, they do close off. And so this is where this system becomes useful. When people can tune into their core belief, it allows them to center themselves around certain thoughts. They can understand certain things about themselves, the way they behave, the way people think. It's not so different from other people at all. The core belief is unique, but in close proximity, core beliefs are quite similar. Core belief comes from their environment and their parents, how they were brought up with friends and families and values, and allows them to grow from their society and also a few other places too. There are questions. Why do people want to measure up to other societies? Why do people compete with other societies? And they do compete, but unconsciously there are many different aspects of why one culture is better than another culture. We invented football. This is another competition, we being people. We invented other sports too, but what gains do you get from measuring up to different societies? There's elation and feelings. Why do people do this? And people go through lives trading feelings for feelings and sometimes feelings for perspectives, and all the time missing that which is underneath the surface, which is core to the person, which motivates them. How many times we look at other countries, other cultures and say, yeah, they're poor, they're disadvantaged, they don't have the right tools, say all manner of things about other people. But to be fair, those people exist in their own right now, alongside us, just in a different space, however many hundreds or thousands of miles away. They're still alive. There are generic responses like laughter. People have their own behaviors and they climb up into trees, live in trees, build their houses in tree houses, hundreds of feet off the ground. And wouldn't that be amazing to actually live in a tree house? 1 meter or 2 meter, but hundreds of meters off the ground? That's got to be something special. Exciting to do that. It would be scary. We, as a culture, have got used to the ground and not living up in the trees. As a people, living on the floor. And this is where you can see that comparisons between cultures are dangerous. They don't do each culture justice because there's reasons why people live up in trees hundreds of meters off the floor, and there's reasons why others live on the ground, not hundreds of meters off the floor. It's got nothing to do with the survival rate. These are just things that people have become accustomed to. Thoughts are dangerous because you're not doing yourselves justice, and you're not doing that other nation justice either. Granted, they don't have iPads, iPods, iPhones, they don't have technology, they don't have all kinds of manners of creations. But granted, we don't have their view, unless of course we go up the Eiffel Tower. But we don't live with their views. To live with a view hundreds of meters off the floor has got to have its own knowledge. There's got to be something about that this society hasn't been able to tap into, unless of course you have people living 200 meters up. And this makes us products of our own society, and that's basically what I wanted to say about that. The grouping of Westerners are not all the same. We can get from their society how we interact around their society, whether we can view them as a separate people with respect and respect for ourselves. Respecting them, we are responsible for our own lives. We can play Big Daddy, Big Mama, Big Brother, regardless of how big we might be or not be. The fact is that we are separate from them, and they have their own future, their own relationships, and will always relate the way that they want to, and ultimately will always relate according to their own core beliefs.